So today I'm going to be looking at saving some of my pups and leaf props which are really wilting and just haven't been doing very well. So they've been kept in this tray here, and yeah, I think they've just been kept in there too long. I have found a few mealies, so mealies are probably eating away at the roots, and this is hindering any growth for the plants. So I've treated them all. I took them out of this tray yesterday. I sprayed them all with a 70% alcohol spray, and the mealies have now all died off, thankfully. And there wasn't too many, it's just a couple kind of in the roots, so they were really hard to see. It was not possible for me to even see that they were in there without me kind of taking them out of this cell tray. So what some people usually do is probably just chuck these out. So I've had some really amazing growth in this tray. It's been repotted on and gone into a next kind of size up pot, where these ones have just kind of been left neglected. I probably don't water them enough. Some that I have watered have rotted, and that's probably because the root systems aren't very strong, so they're not able to absorb that water that they're getting. So what I'm going to do today is kind of do a last chance survival for them. So I want to repot them into like a little mini arrangement that I can keep outside for the rest of the season. So it's now the end of August, so I've still got September and some of October, so they could get some really good growth and some really strong root systems in that time. I won't leave them out further than that because obviously the temperature will drop, probably too cold for them. But yeah, they're looking very depleted, wilted, and just really not full of life. But succulents are amazing at surviving. So even if you've got one that has no roots, one leaf or something like that, just try and pot it on somewhere, just throw it in an arrangement and just see what happens, because sometimes they've got this will for survival and they will just continue and they will then thrive. I have some from last year I nearly chucked out. They were in kind of a smaller tray than this, and I potted them all up into just a terracotta pot left outside, kind of ignored it. Like, they've got rain, they've got the wind and the sun, and they are now thriving. So yeah, it does just take sometimes a little bit of fresh soil and change in environment, and you can get your succulents, which are looking a little bit sad, to look a lot happier again. So let's do it, let's get into it and let's make an arrangement for them. So I found this little pot, which I've obviously used for past arrangements, just in with my kind of discarded pots. So I think this would be really good. I've only got very small ones, so I think it would be quite good to overcrowd them, because that way, if you do get quite a lot of rain in here, there's a lot of succulents to then soak up that rain. Obviously, I'm hoping they do grow quite a good root system quite quickly. They should do with this weather, because it's not too hot at the minute, it's not too cold, it's kind of perfect for succulents, really. There's a really good airflow outside, obviously, which they really thrive on. It really is so good for the stem, it's good for the crown, it's just very good to dry out the soil. Yeah, I just find outside succulents love the airflow, the sun, the rain. It doesn't matter if we get quite a lot of rain, because it does dry out quite quickly. So yeah, I'm going to use this pot today, which is quite pretty, and it just means I can keep an eye on it, because it's a little bit different to everything else I have outside. Yeah, anyway, let's make a pretty arrangement. So these are the kind of pups, and I think they are mostly pups actually, some maybe leaf props, which have taken out of the tray that you would have seen. Some of them have got quite good roots, some really fresh white ones on this one, and some, I suppose there's one root on there, and some of them have nothing, like this one doesn't really have anything at all. But it doesn't mean that they won't survive. Like I say, succulents have this like really strong will for survival, and I love it. I think it's amazing how you can just pot some really like lifeless plants into a nice arrangement, and they can just absolutely thrive with a little bit of, not even TLC, it's kind of like you just neglect them, because you just leave them outside and let, you know, nature do its thing, and they do come back. Obviously not all the time, but it's worth trying anyway. So let's get into it. Like I said, I've got this beautiful little pot here. I'm going to fill up with a really nice gritty mix. It's really important to make sure there's enough grit in there, so your soil is well draining, because you do not want these sitting against some like soaking wet soil for long duration, so you need it to drain quite freely. I have got one drainage hole in here which I've drilled. Yes, that is what I'm going to use today. I could do with a few more holes, but I'm a bit worried this will probably break. I'm not sure if you can see, but it's kind of cracked at the bottom anyway. But yeah, if you add lots of grit, then there's less risk for too much water sitting in there. So let's do it. Let's get some mixture ready. So I've got some leftover mix of compost and grit. I'm going to add that in here, but I've also got some leftover John Innes, which is a lot drier and more kind of dust-like. So I'm actually going to mix those two together just as an experiment, really, to see how well it takes. So it does look really, really gritty, but I promise there is soil in there. It's just obviously dry at the minute, so you can't really see the soil as much. But in the UK, it's always better to kind of err on the side of caution and make sure that, you know, there isn't too much compost, because we do get some very big downpours, normally for long durations as well. I'm just trying to take out any bits of bark I can see. It's just really annoying, the compost mixes at the minute. I've kind of just lots of bits of bark and huge stones. So I do sieve my compost now through quite a big sieve. Yeah, just to get rid of that rubbish, because bark and things like that can hold on to a lot of moisture, which, as we know, succulents do not appreciate. So let's pop some of this mix into here. Actually, what I might do is just do a layer of pure grit at the bottom. That just adds a little bit more extra drainage. So I've got some really chunky kind of gravel there, and that will probably do the job nicely. There is a little bit of soil in there, but not too much. So that will be good for drainage at the bottom. And now we're just going to add a layer of this lovely gritty mix and kind of fill up to the top. Little bits of dead leaves in there from the other experiments I was doing. So I don't like these big chunky bits, so if there's any really clumpy bits, I'm going to just remove them. I don't know if they're just stones and things. I feel like compost is just getting full of like rubbish now. Anyway, there we go. Let's add a tiny bit more. Perfect. So this is what I probably use in every video. It's just a skewer, but I just find it so helpful for every little succulent thing I do. So like I said, these plants are looking very, very sad. So I don't even know what some of them are. Some I've got labels with, some I haven't. I couldn't even guess what that one is. But yeah, I'm just going to start putting them in here using my trusty skewer to kind of make a little bit of a hole for them, and then try and just pop the soil around there. If I find any more big lumpy bits, some of this soil, the lumps, you can squeeze and then it just turns into like a fine soil, so it's worth doing that as well. Okay, so some of them have got labels. I don't want it to look ugly, but I do want to know what they are if I have got an ID, so I'm going to try and bury the labels next to them so you can't really see. We'll see if that works. It's an experiment anyway. So yeah, I'm just going to continue to pop these in here. I might have way too many succulents for this size bowl, or if not, I have got some other rescue plants sitting in here ready to go into another arrangement. So I just find, like with pups and things, you always get some which don't look very good, but you always get some which thrive very quickly. So I suppose it's just like anything, it's just down to nature, isn't it? If they've got big roots, they're actually harder to plant, so I probably should do those first. Don't want to leave too big of gaps, but so it's just really popping them wherever you can. This one is actually meant to be a variegated one from a big, huge actually variegated plant that I imported, and it rotted after a couple of months. So I've got some kind of leaf props and pups from it which live on, and I've just found that, and I didn't realise I still had that one. So sometimes you do have some nice little finds as well. So I'm just going to repeat this process for all the other ones. I'll pop you on a time lapse. So they're all the pups I've been able to get in there. I've got some really tall ones which I think I'd rather put in a different arrangement. So I thought I would just fill in the gaps with some leaf props which I've got just sitting about. I think I had a couple rot, and then I just pull the leaves off and kind of leave them on the side, and some of them have started to pup. So I'll just pop some leaf props in here as well. I think that's all the ones from that one. And then over here I've got a couple more. So we've got some prisms and some labambas, which are both really beautiful. Some lovely roots on that one. So I'm just going to pop them on top because leaf props love it outside as well. They do really well. I find they actually grow really quickly as long as they're not being scorched by the sun. They really seem to love it outside. I think just those ones for now. So I would usually add a top dressing to anything outside just because I think it looks a lot prettier, but I'm just a bit concerned that obviously this is very small, everything's very delicate, so I don't want it to be kind of beaten up by gravel at the minute. So I think I'm just going to let it sit for a couple of weeks, see how it gets on, and then once they do start to grow, I can then add a kind of a top dressing once they look a bit healthier really. So let's go and find a place outside which will be suitable for them and help them to thrive. So excuse the mess, this is the reality of my succulents at the minute. So this side of the garden is where I keep a lot of my arrangements. This gets a lot of morning sunshine, and as you can see the shade is starting to come over now, which is really good for succulents. They don't like too intense sunlight, so this is where I find they do really well. I've even got some wall arrangements which absolutely love it over here, and some more, excuse my egg chair, over here. So yeah, this part of the garden does really well for succulents and arrangements. So I thought I would kind of leave this over here for now, and just see how it gets on, just give it a little bit of shade for the rest of the day, and maybe even move it a little bit more, sorry about the mess, a little bit over to the left, just for a few days, so it's kind of slowly acclimatized to the sun, because it is August and it's still quite hot at the minute. So yeah, I don't want them to kind of burn and die before they even get a chance to, you know, stretch their legs and reroot. But yeah, I've got a lot of succulents out here. I've watered quite a lot of my collection, and I like to bring them out to dry off in, you know, like I've said, the airflow is absolutely amazing for them. So I bring them out once they've been watered, and they dry out naturally outside for about 2 or 3 days, as long as it's not raining, and then they go back into the greenhouse. And I've got some seedlings out here which I've grown this year, which I am so happy about. They're doing so well. So yeah, I watered them last night and thought, actually I might as well let them dry out in some sunshine with some good airflow. It just seems to be, you know, the ideal kind of success for them to have the mixture of the water, the sun and the air, just really well for them. So yeah, that's where I'm going to leave it, and I'm probably going to water it maybe in about 3 days time. Just going to leave it out here. If it does rain, that's fine, but if it is dry for the next week or so, I will offer it some water in about 3 days once the roots are settled, because when you interfere with the roots, it does disturb them a little bit, I suppose, and it can damage them, and kind of open them up, so they are more susceptible to rotting once you have kind of repotted them. But yeah, that is what it looks like at the minute. So instead of giving up on your wilting succulents, why don't you make a fresh arrangement for them and see how they get on? It is actually really surprising how well they do with a little bit of kind of fresh soil, a fresh pot, and just some new environmental factors to look after them really. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have and you want to see the update, please do subscribe to my channel and you'll see the update in a couple of months' time. Hopefully we'll have some really good progress that I can share with you. If you have any questions, please do let me know. Please ask away in the comments. I love hearing from you. But thanks for watching today, and I'll see you next time.